really grateful to Representative Fields and other folks who helped us get the venue for today's event. He really stepped it up in terms of grandeur, so maybe it was all meant to be. I would still like to thank you all for being here, for finding us, for being persistent with the changes. This year's national theme for Sexual Assault Awareness Month is It's Time to Talk About It. We really want to encourage communities to no longer remain silent about this devastating crime. We're fortunate that Governor Hickenlooper also echoed this sentiment when he signed the proclamation for Colorado's Sexual Assault Awareness Month. He stated that, quote, Coloradans must recommit ourselves not only to lifting the veil of secrecy and shame surrounding sexual violence, but also to raising awareness, expanding support for victims, and really strengthening our response. Throughout today's event, we'll be reminded to find realistic, everyday ways to intervene and help create safety in our relationships, families, neighborhoods, schools, workplaces, and communities. It's been really exciting watching this year's rally come together. We've had so much help from CCASA partners and member organizations, as well as survivors and our partners who really help us work to end sexual violence in Colorado. We really support our member agencies and other partner organizations who sent out just as many emails as we did with the location changes over the last 48 hours. We really appreciate you all helping us make sure people knew how to get here and getting your folks here. This is really our event to kick off Sexual Assault Awareness Month, but I also want to recognize that it's also Child Abuse Prevention Month, and there will be an event, I believe, on the Capitol steps tomorrow for that. So I encourage you all to spend every day of the month recognizing whatever awareness it is. I would really like you to join me in thanking our co-sponsors for this year's event. First, the Rape Assistance and Awareness Program, or RAP. It's our local rape crisis center serving 9 counties in the Denver metro area. Moving to End Sexual Assault, or MESA, serving Broomfield and Boulder counties. The Colorado Organization for Victim Assistance, or COPA. God forbid we don't use acronyms, so I'll tell you both names. Working to create fairness and healing for all crime victims in Colorado. Please join me in thanking them for co-sponsoring. We also had an amazing SAAM organizing committee this year that put in more hours than I can count, a lot of hard work to make sure that rape crisis centers and other service providers in Colorado had resources and materials to put on events all across the state to recognize April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Specifically, we had a 2012 SAAM Planning Committee. There's way too many to talk about, so we could just also give them a round of applause for their More specifically, I'd like to recognize today's event planning subcommittee, many committees involved. They really worked diligently to make this event possible. We have Kemi Chavez from Protecting Childhood and a CCASA volunteer, Tara Rosner from RAP, Megan McCluskey from RAP, and Dan Church, also from RAP. Thank you guys so much for that. Last but not least, I'm blessed and extremely fortunate to work with 2 amazing co-workers at CCASA, Karen Oldman and Alexa Pretty. Karen is unable to be with us today. She's had another conference enjoying the beach in San Diego. Funny how that worked out. And Alexa's over here. I really want everyone to see Alexa. Especially over the last 48 hours, I really wasn't sure if Alexa was going to quit before this event actually ended up happening. So I'm really glad to say she's still a staff member at CCASA. A couple of quick announcements before we get started. If you haven't visited our table or folks with baskets in the back already, we have pins, we have teal ribbons. Please feel free to take those, definitely visit those tables. We also have tables in the hallway, I believe, for partner and member organizations. Again, thank them for their flexibility with location changes, and please visit their tables. They have a lot of great information. I think I'm supposed to tell you that their restrooms are incredibly inconveniently located in the basement of the building. I believe they're the only ones in terms of public restrooms, and you need to go down the northwest steps. Did I say that right, Megan, wherever you are? I think that's right. Ask someone, they'll tell you what they are. And I would like blanket forgiveness for any names that I screw up today as I announce folks. I think the planning committee was laughing as they decided decided who would speak and perform, so I'm the one that has to introduce them. And after this, I personally will be donning my robes and hearing any cases that you are worried about with sexual assault. So, you know, we're here, we might as well take advantage. I'll pretend I'm a judge for an hour. So I'm really excited to announce our keynote speaker today. Jessie Ogus, respected community leader, is a 25-year native of Denver and has a true passion for making a difference, whether it's on stage or working side by side with a wide array of community partners. Jessie's been focused on many issues affecting all communities and is passionate, especially about bringing an end to sexual violence against all people. Please join me in welcoming Jessie Ogus.
So, hello everyone, and thanks for coming out on this cold and snowy morning. As with any Colorado typical weather, you can see the sun seems like it's trying to break through. So, hey, it's 80 degrees one day and snow in the next. Thank you so much for being here today for this year's Sexual Assault Awareness Month Capital event. I can't say rally, I was told. So, event. Sexual assault is one of the most underreported crimes in America. 1 in 6 women nationally are victims of sexual assault during the course of their lifetime. 1 in 6 women will report their assaults to the authorities. Keep in mind that one study showed that 683,000 women across the United States were victims of violent sexual assaults. Now, this number, 683,000, does not reflect girls and boys under the age of 18. In Colorado, 1 out of every 4 women will be a victim of sexual assault. 1 in 17 men will experience a sexual assault and become a victim in the course of their lifetime. These following statistics are the ages of reported victims. 29% of all victims are under the age of 11. 32% of all victims are between the ages of 11 and 17. 22% of victims are between the ages of 18 and 24. 7% are between the ages of 25 and 29. And 6% are over 29. In our community of persons with developmental disabilities, the statistics are as follows. 8 out of 10 women who have a developmental disability will be victims of sexual assault multiple times during the course of their lifetime. 4 out of 10 boys or men with developmental disabilities will be victims of sexual assault multiple times in the course of their lifetime. Children with developmental disabilities, the ages of 12 through 9, will experience a sexual assault at twice the rate of normal children their age, of their peers. The statistics are astounding, and if you're like me, you're thinking, how could this be? Why is this happening, and what can I do to end this crime spree? Earlier this morning, HB 1085, which is legislation that was introduced by Representative Rhonda Fields, Senator Carroll, and Senator Hudak, was signed by Governor Hickenlooper. You may be asking, what is the importance? Well, for our community of persons with developmental disabilities, it's important because for the first time it will allow testimony from persons with developmental disabilities to be used to help make prosecutions. Less than 1% of all crimes committed against people with persons with developmental disabilities are prosecuted. And this is a step in the right direction. So we're very proud of our legislators. Now I'd like to share a story about a 10-year-old boy who fell victim to sexual This young boy grew up in a relatively small community in the Latino community, Latino culture. He was a fun-loving extrovert with a heart filled with love and compassion for everyone. A close family friend who was in his late 30s and his father's best friend positioned himself with his own family to create an extended family unit. After months of mentoring and support, as a protected fatherly figure in this young boy's life, the perpetrator established a comfort level with the boy and his family. It was at this point that the perpetrator knew that he had gained the boy's admiration and trust, and it would only be a matter of time before he would breach that trust. He would shatter that little boy's own image of who he was and of older men in authority. The perpetrator's action would result in confusion, alienation, self-doubt, deep emotional pain, and the ability for this boy to ever feel safe again with his own heart. He would take away the trust and love that would later help this boy have healthy and intimate relationships as he grew into a young man, a husband, a companion, and a father. As a result, this boy became very angry, became an introvert, and desperate to know what intimacy was and how to experience it. It wasn't until later in life that this boy found a voice to speak his truth and expose the dirty little secret that had kept him in an emotional prison. I'm here to tell you that that boy was me. I'm here to tell you that it's not a one-time incident. In fact, it's a lifetime of recovery. I've been told that I'm courageous and I'm strong for speaking out. But I'm here to say that it's not my courage, it's not my strength, but it's my conviction to let other victims know that they're okay. It's not their fault. That they didn't do anything to deserve it. I'm here to say that no matter what facades we put on, or no matter how hard we try to not let anyone see our pain, we see it every day when we look in the mirror, or when we see our reflections on the side of the building, or in the eyes of those who love us. It's time to speak your truth, and it's only in this truth that you and I can help create change. So please, join me in creating a safe environment for our children to speak out, for victims of all ages to speak their truth, and to raise awareness to put an end to sexual assault. It's time to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessie, for those inspiring words. We're really fortunate to have our next performer who's also used her words to create change in the Denver area and beyond. Dominique Ashahi, mother to 4 supernatural children, I love that, has been performing for more than a decade. She, along with her teammates on Slam Nuba, won the National Poetry Championship in Boston in August of last year. And Dominique is also the Women of the World Poetry Champion for this year, 2012. She enjoys directing programs for the nonprofit Peace Jam in Denver, teaching writing workshops, and touring with teammate Ayinde Russell as a slam poetry duet called Free Verse. Please join me in welcoming Dominique as she performs her piece called Stargazer.
Thank you for having me. I'm normally a really big mouth. My voice is a little bit compromised. I'm particularly glad to be able to perform here. because of my own complicated history, and some of that will emerge in the work that I do. But I think that I need to say, as a preamble to this poem, that this did not emerge as a poem for me. It emerged as a journal writing, which I'm pretty vigilant about. And it was a means of sort of extracting some things from my body so that I didn't hold it in the wrong way where it can then sort of conspire against me. And then it later, I realized that maybe I had something here and it was a poem. But I find that the things that happen to me have a particular weight. But then the stories that I made up about the things that happened to me have even more weight. So the fact is that, there were things that were taken from me, right? But what I made up about that was because there was something flawed about me. So that has more weight, right? So I'm always wrestling with my history and trying to rewrite it in a way so that it sits in my body like light and not like shadows. So this piece is called Stargazer, and it's actually about when I elected to have sex for the first time. It is the year of living dangerously. I'm 16 and trying to lose my virginity quickly to somebody with soft hands and eyes for kissing. Eager to let go of makeshift piety, I'm looking for psalms in slow dances. Tell my nerve endings to be patient. Mark my calendar to watch for the subterranean dance of bloodletting and brown skin bending willfully under cotton sheets, hoping this boy has not grown his bones into tools for bludgeoning the few bits of girlishness left in me that have not forgotten what tenderness can feel like in the inevitable cruelty that is adolescence. I'm stargazing. There's an unfamiliar tremor in my hip. My navel is man-made lake. What it cannot hold runs over and collects beneath me. I'm glad for the distraction. My hymen applauds the first consensual contact she's ever known. She will begin the arduous ritual of disremembering the one who came before. I'm stargazing. My hands are fisted. This is habitual. It will take years for them to open. I will forgive that. He is smiling in my ear. I can hear those pretty white teeth. He did not know redemption could quiver so pink. I did not know redemption could quiver so pink. It's dawn now, and there are 1,000 poems waiting in the space between my cheek and his collarbone. I'll write them all down later. They are mine for the rest of my life. The soft refrains of forgiveness that chase the memories of a pedophile to dust. Come back, moon. You and I share the same story. Glory be to the girl who goes back for her body. He will sleep through my epiphanies and hallelujahs. I will forgive that. Unaccustomed to bones being so loose, my knees are waiting for instruction. They have not been told to fight back or fend off. I will stroke them into silence, tell them, this boy is different. A daywalker who laughs in his sleep. My forehead is red from his kiss. Only molested children love so well or forget so quickly. He's dreaming now. Left hand pinning me against him safe. He does not know how often I've bled in the arms of another, how the scratch and pull of no kept daylight from coming. Too short a word for men to hear. It moves through the mouth too quickly to be considered, but I have not uttered that here. I'm stargazing. I will watch him sleep to the sound of yesterday dying in the bend of his elbow. When he wakes, he will catch me staring. I am a star.
been around longer than she's want me to say, and is truly one of a piece of the backbone of CCASA that allows us to continue to do what we do today, and that's Jennifer Isle, the chairperson of our Public Policy Committee. Please welcome her.
Along with Representative Fields, who we'll be talking about in a moment. My job here today is to be a part of presenting CCASA's 2012 Legislative Award. Every year, CCASA chooses a legislator who has been a champion for victims of sexual violence in the legislature during that legislative session. This year, our award is going to Representative Rhonda Fields, who sponsored House Bill 1085, which was mentioned earlier by Jesse, which provides a hearsay exemption for testimony by developmentally disabled victims of sexual violence. As a lawyer, that means something to me, and it might mean nothing to the rest of you. But what it does mean is that in cases where victims are developmentally disabled and have difficulty, for whatever reason, testifying in court, or for some reason are unavailable to testify in court, their testimony can be brought in without them present under certain circumstances and avoid re-traumatizing that victim. I'd like to introduce Darla Stewart, who's the Executive Director of the ARGO Aurora, who's going to talk more about the bill and about Representative Fields and present the award. Darla?
Thank you, everyone. I know that many of you probably have opportunities to go to trainings, and your bosses might say to you, hey, what does that training really do, and what's the outcome? I'm going to tell you the outcome of a training that the ARGO Aurora sponsored with the Aurora Police Department. And we had a group of people at lunch, and we began to talk about why aren't cases where victims of crimes with developmental disabilities are prosecuted regularly. And the discussion resulted in someone saying, well, because there's an issue around those individuals being seen as credible witnesses. And so the group of us at the table, inclusive of Maggie Convoy from the Denver DA's office, Carol O'Shea, and Sergeant Joe Young of the Aurora Police Department, said, well, what can we do about that? A few months later, we met with the representative and we said, Representative Fields, we have an issue. We have people with developmental disabilities who end up being voiceless because their victimization, if they choose, is not prosecuted because the DAs don't see them as credible witnesses. Representative Fields, and I don't know if you've worked with a lot of legislators, they're all great people, they're very, very busy. And she said, victims who don't have a voice, sign me up. We're here today. So with that, I would like to let you know that Representative Rhonda Fields is a great victims advocate for those who have voices and those who don't. And I would suggest that we consider working with her in the future because what a wonderful advocate she's been on this bill. Thank you.
I believe that that's just wrong, and that just should not happen. So your theme that talks about it's time to talk about it, we do need to talk about it. You know, and not only do we need to talk about it, but we need to do something about it. We need to end sexual assault. I want to thank this organization and the lobbyists that are are here down at this Capitol. I wish you guys please stand, because they are the ones that keep us on point in making sure that we pass legislation that has a positive impact. Quietly whisper in our ear, you know, what kind of impact legislation is going to have. It might seem like it might look good on paper, but sometimes it might have an impact that we didn't realize. So they are guiding us along the way. Alexis, I see you over there smiling right now, but you wasn't smiling when I called you early this morning. Thank you. I mean, we were in contact with each other to try to make this happen. We thought we were going to be in the foyer on the west side, and then the steps and the weather, but through it all, you were very patient, so thank you. So in closing, I just want you to all know that each of you play a very important role in helping people heal through whatever kind of pain that they're going through. So I want to thank you. So to do that kind of work, whatever role you play, it could be a spouse, it could be a parent, it could be an organization, it takes a special calling to do the kind of work that you do. And a lot of times when you are victimized, like I was not familiar with the criminal justice system. It was foreign to me, and I had a victim advocate that helped me, and that was the people in the Aurora Police Department, Carol Lachey and Rusty and all of those folks there. Thank you for helping me get to the State House. I was able to turn my pain around into a position where now I can usher in legislation. And that's what it's all about. I hurt every day. I miss my son. So it's not that you let go of the pain. The pain is constantly there. But for me, and just like your keynote address, you learn how to push your way and push yourself through the pain. And I can tell you, it's a daily effort. So I want you all to know that I honor this plaque because it comes from people and from you that I understand, because I too am a victim. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Fields, Jennifer, Darla, for your tireless efforts on behalf of sexual assault victims, or as Jennifer whispered, maybe you were tired, but thank you for doing it anyway. Our next award is new this year. Given what seems like increasingly high-profile sexual assault cases in the media with not always the most positive public attention showered on survivors of these crimes, we decided it was really important to honor reporters and other members of the media who are doing it differently, who are really making a positive difference with this year's inaugural Media Excellence Award. This award is for dedication to dispelling myths about sexual violence, breaking the silence surrounding this crime, and providing survivor-centered coverage of sexual violence in the media. We didn't know how this award would go over. We definitely knew of folks who were deserving of it, but we put out a call to all of our members across the state to receive other nominations, and we were really very pleasantly surprised at how many we received. The committee, the subcommittee of the organizing committee for this month really had their work cut out for them, had to make some really difficult decisions about who would receive this award. And because of the overwhelming response we got, we decided to present two awards, one in an urban category and one in a rural category. We really wanted to recognize the unique setting that these folks work in when providing media coverage of issues around sexual violence. To present the first award, I'd like to introduce Marty Hopper from Moving to End Sexual Assault for the award in the urban category. Marty?
My name is Marty Hopper, as Aaron said. I work for Moving to End Sexual Assault, which is the rape crisis organization for Boulder County. And I am here to nominate, or to introduce Pamela White as the winner of, in the urban category. Pamela White has been working as a columnist and newspaper editor in Boulder for the past 20 years. She has been a persistent, forceful, and eloquent voice for survivors of sexual assault, with a dedicated mission of breaking the silence around this crime. Her articles provide accurate information, work to dispel destructive myths, and provide a call to action on the part of the broader community. Pamela White never hesitates to advocate for survivors and their rights when she sees an injustice, and she has written countless such articles over the past 20 years. This past August, she wrote a column calling out the hospital that failed the survivor in the Broncos Parish Cox case, and then calling on all area hospitals to establish SAAM programs, or sex assault nurse examiner programs. She wrote numerous other articles last year advocating for sexual assault survivors and countering rape myths. Examples of just her recent work include an article on actually positive changes at the CU Boulder campus regarding its response to sexual assault. Also 2 articles about last summer's Denver Slut Walk, which, by the way, Pamela was the featured speaker. And she also wrote a story about groping by TSA officials at Denver International Airport. Finally, Pamela won a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Colorado chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists last year, in part for her work on Senate Bill 193, which banned the use of shackles on inmates during labor and delivery. She wrote the bill after uncovering the horrible conditions under which incarcerated women give birth in Colorado. I'm thrilled that CCASA has chosen to honor Pamela White for being a consistent and courageous media voice for survivors of sexual assault. So please join me in welcoming Pamela White.
In a very strange roundabout way, sexual assault is what drove me to be a journalist. We all know what it feels like to sit at home and read a newspaper about the latest terrible sexual assault that happened in our communities. I would read those articles and be filled with such incandescent rage at the response that people gave to the victims in those cases. And one day, after some women had been sexually assaulted on the Boulder Creek path, and those women were told, well, hey, if you're going to walk out there at night, you should expect to be raped. I'd really had enough. I sat down and I wrote my first column. I didn't even know it was going to be a column. I sent it to the newspaper. They ran it, and it turned into a journalism career. Kind of surprised me. The job of a journalist is to be a voice for the voiceless. And sexual assault victims are among the most voiceless people in our communities. I dedicated as much time as I could to the issue, largely trying to overcome obstacles that were presented by the all-male environment of the newsroom. I was the only woman at the time. I was told that I really shouldn't use the phrase sex assault survivor because it's not like you almost died, it's not like you were killed, what's the big deal? A variety of other conversations that I don't have time to repeat, but it drove me to continue writing about this issue as often as I could. And when the time was right, just a few years ago, I came out in my column as a survivor of sexual assault. I was a child, 10 years old also, and it was a very empowering experience. But I learned that although I felt like my voice was small, that when I spoke out on behalf of other victims of this crime, my voice became a roar. And I know that each of us has the power to be that voice, to make a difference to people out there who are drowning in pain, who don't know how to get out. Sorry, it chokes me up too, it doesn't mean so much. But we all have that voice, we all have a chance to speak out. And when we do, our words reach people whose suffering is known only to them. And then they grow from that strength. I've had people come up to me and tell me people I didn't even know that my columns touched them. And so thank you very much for this award. I'm very grateful I had the opportunity. I'm grateful I found my voice. And this is why we need to talk about it, to free people from the chains of the hurt this crime causes. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty, for nominating such a deserving recipient. Next, I'd like to introduce Paula Bragg from Sarah Inc. in Fort Morgan to present the award in the rural category. Paula?
It is my pleasure to have nominated John LaPorte, Chief Editor and the Fort Morgan Times for the 2012 Media Excellence Award. John and his staff were instrumental to the success of my agency, Sarah Incorporated, providing coverage for Sarah's open house, fundraising efforts, letters to the editor, prevention activities, news releases, public service announcements, and other informative efforts to educate the community about the facts of sexual assault in an effort to prevent violence and make our community a safer place in which to live. As Calvin Coolidge once said, no person was ever honored for what he received. Honor has been the reward for what he gave. Thank you, John, and your staff for the work you do in Morgan County. Please help me to honor John LaPorte and the staff at the Fort Morgan County.
This really is a team award. It goes to the whole staff of the paper. In particular, I'd like to recognize our news editor, Dan Barker, who's sitting back there with a camera around his neck. Dan has written countless articles on sexual assault. I'd like to salute Paula and her staff. They're very gutsy people who have brought sexual assault awareness in our community a very long way. One of the people I'd also like to remember is a lady named Becky Bornhoff. She's a former bank executive who has gone into teaching. She came out as a sexual assault survivor. She was assaulted in her home, badly beaten, badly injured, and her courage enabled her to receive justice. Her perpetrator was convicted and sent to prison. And it was through her courage that justice was served. And it's people like that that really give a voice to the voiceless. Thanks.
Services in Northeast Colorado. I'd like to read a few quotes that we received from the nominations from various members of her community because they say it much better than I ever could. Paula had the vision 5 years ago to have a holistic and comforting place to serve sexual assault victims. Through many hours of persistent dedication, she was able to get funding to buy a home that would become Sexual Assault Resource Advocates Incorporated, or SARA Inc. Against many obstacles, Paula then went on to obtain certification and recognition for SARA. She's helped her community begin to heal and work with each other to better serve victims of sexual assault in Northeast Colorado. Paula is passionate about her work to end sexual violence, and most importantly, we are so proud that she is in Fort Morgan. I know I speak on behalf of survivors and service providers across the entire state when I say that we're so proud that Paula Bragg calls Colorado home. Please join me in recognizing Paula Bragg, the 2012 recipient of Colorado's Visionary Voice Award.
Thank you so much for this award. As you know, it takes many people to make something good happen in a community. It takes a beautiful, strong, supportive family and a lot of friends. It takes a community that believes in a new idea, a newspaper that isn't afraid to talk about it, a collaborative team that decides to come together to improve a system response that was once broken. It takes funders and legislators that support an important effort. And it takes a small child, a frightened teenager, an apprehensive adult that comes forward in hopes of finding some justice. That teaches us the meaning of courage. And it takes leadership from amazing groups like CCASA, CCASA, and COBA. Thank you all for your support and your encouragement. I needed it many, many times. It takes us all, and I'm very proud to be part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula. Over It is a monologue written by Eve Hensler, author of the groundbreaking play, The Vagina Monologues. This piece is based on her essay of the same name that was published in the Huffington Post in response to numerous examples of rape culture alive and well, from rape Facebook pages to the Penn State scandal. An excerpt of this piece will be performed today by Shelley Schreiner, CCASA board member and co-organizer of a V-Day production of A Memory, a Monologue, a Rant, and a Prayer, which will include the full version of Over It and other monologues about violence against women and girls. This piece will be performed in its entirety on April 20th and 21st to benefit local domestic violence and sexual assault organizations. To perform today's excerpt, please welcome Shelley Schreiner.
Over It by Eve Hensler. I am over rape. I'm over rape culture, rape mentality, rape pages on Twitter. I'm over the thousands of people that signed those rape pages with their real names without shame. I'm over people demanding their right to rape pages and calling it freedom of speech or justifying it as a joke. I'm over people not understanding that rape is not a joke. And I'm over being told that I don't have a sense of humor and that women don't have a sense of humor. Because most of the women that I know, and I know a lot, are really, really funny. We just don't think that uninvited penises of our anus and our vagina is allowed right. I'm over how long it takes for anyone to respond to rape. I'm over Facebook taking weeks to take down those pages. I'm over rape happening in broad daylight. I'm over 1 in 3 women in the U.S. military getting gang raped by their so-called comrades. I'm over the forces that deny those women who have been raped the right to have an abortion. I am over the fact that after 4 women came forward with allegations that Herman Cain groped them and grabbed them and humiliated them, he was still running for president of the United States of America. And I am over CNBC debate host Maria Bartiromo getting booed when she asked him about it. She was booed, not Herman Cain. Which reminds me, I am so over the students at Penn State who protested the justice system instead of the rapist pedophile of at least 8 boys, or his boss, Joe Paterno, who did nothing to protect those children after knowing what was happening to them. I am over rape victims becoming re-raped when they go public. I am over women getting raped at Occupy Wall Street and being quiet about it because they're protecting a movement which is fighting to end the pillaging and raping of the economy and the earth, as if raping their bodies was somehow different. I am over women still being silent about rape because they're made to believe that it's their fault and that they did something to make it happen. I am over violence against women not being a #1 international priority when 1 out of 3 women will be raped or beaten in her lifetime. The destruction and muting and undermining of women is this destruction of life itself. No women, no future. Duh. I'm over this rape culture where the privileged with political and physical and economic might take what and who they want, when they want, as much as they want, anytime they want. I am over the endless resurrection of the careers of rapists and sexual exploiters, film directors, world leaders, corporate executives, movie stars, athletes, while the lives of the women they violated are permanently destroyed, often forcing them to live in social and emotional exile. I'm over the passivity of good men. Where are you? You live with us, make love with us, father us, befriend us, brother us, get nurtured and mothered and eternally supported by us. So why aren't you standing with us? Why aren't you driven to the point of madness and action by the rape and the humiliation of us? I'm over years and years of being over rape. I'm thinking about rape every day of my life since I was 5 years old. I'm getting sick from rape and depressed from rape and enraged by rape. And reading my insanely crowded inbox of rape horror stories every single day for every hour of the day. I'm over being polite about rape. It's been too long now, and we have been too understanding. We need to occupy rape in every school, park, radio, TV station, household, office, factory, refugee camp, military base, back room, nightclub, alleyway, courtroom, UN office. We need people to truly try and imagine, once and for all, what it feels like to have your body invaded, your mind splintered, your soul shattered. We need you to let our rage and our compassion connect us together so we can change the paradigm of global rape. There are approximately 1 billion women on the planet who have been violated. 1 billion women. The time is now. Prepare for the escalation. Today begins, moving forward toward February 14th, 2013, when 1 billion women will rise to end rape. Because we aren't over it.
Thank you, Shelley. It's now my honor to introduce to you 2 members of CCASA Survivor Task Force who are here to share their thoughts about sexual violence and the importance of engaging our communities to prevent violence from happening in the first place. Chris Sansoni is a new member of the Survivor Task Force, but someone whose passion for ending sexual violence is deeply felt. Chris most recently participated in the Sexual Assault Awareness Month public service announcements that were filmed by CCASA, and he reminded all of us that there can be hope and joy when one reaches out for help. Chris is here to share his message with you today. Please join me in welcoming Chris Sansoni.
So, I just want to start by way of a story here. When I was a young child, I believed that the world was basically a safe place where mostly good things would happen to me. I believed that life was just, that we got what we deserved. If you abided by the rules and gave your best, good things would happen. Santa Claus at Christmas time would bring me gifts if I could, and if I was bad, I got cold. I never got cold. I was sexually abused from ages 12 to 14. The offender was 33 years old, was a volunteer coach at my Catholic elementary school. Big Jack. He was a voice, idle, tough guy. He was the next light heavyweight boxer and a truck driver. He trusted out and smoked cigars. He became a trusted adopted uncle in our family. Big Jack abused me and at least 12 other boys. My father was generally preoccupied. My mother was pretty overwhelmed with 6 kids. My devoted grandfather, Gramps, died when I was 11. Our family had recently moved with familiar friends, teachers, and neighbors I had grown up with for visiting. I was alone and in need, and Jack knew it. Looking back, I see the manipulation. He bought us expensive baseball gloves, bowling balls, cigarettes, and beer. And he took us camping, he taught us how to box, and showed us pornography. He wasn't just a fun guy, as it turns out. Strings were attached. With the gifts and attention, there would be his sexual exploits. But in time, he was no longer able to fool me. Fool me into believing that he cared about me and the sexual stuff was all good fun. The other boys also Later I fell asleep crying. I wanted to believe it was all okay. Big Jack, like my Gramps, just loved me for the kid I was. For the next 9 years, I never made the connection between those feelings of hating myself and the shame I had. Those feelings kept getting worse and tougher to blow off, more difficult to avoid with drugs, alcohol, and then I could barely sleep. Like a shattered vase with no pulling my life back the way it was supposed to. A bad thing had happened, but I didn't know what. I knew I did. The aftermath of sexual abuse was what was hurting me so much. Eventually, I did find a caring psychotherapist who helped me connect the dots and make sense of things. And he helped me to understand that it was not my fault. That, I didn't deserve this. I deserved a lot better. Distrust and fear gradually gave way to trust and hopes in my heart. There was also Mesa, we've heard about. And that's the moving down sexual assault program in Boulder County, Bloomfield. Mesa had a men's survivors group which I stayed in for 7 years. The devoted people at Mesa, Janine Dianabal and Emily Tofty, Marty Howard, also gave me an opportunity to tell my story over the past 10 years, a couple times a year, as a contributor to Mesa's rape crisis hotline training. And so it turns out today, I've got 5 other men that I rely on, purely friendship-based men's group. For now 11 years running. They're about as close to family as you can get. There's Eric and Andy, 2 of the guys who are here. There's Berg and another Andy and Andrew. And my sister Patty, my brothers Dave and Joe, my friend Stasha, who tried to move Jose, who's here. Anthony, Danielle, and my outstanding sons, Kellen and Andrew, and my mother and my father. And I want to offer a particular note to the survivors that are here today. I want you to keep in mind 3 things. And if you've already heard these, and maybe these are helpful reminders. But first is to invite loving people to help you. The second is to tell your story. And third is feel the feelings as you can when you can. Loving people are the greatest resource on your trek to recovery and completion. They remind you that you deserve goodness, and they hold the candle to its best in you. The stories are pathways through which we make sense of our lives. So tell the story. Tell the stories about how brave, creative, and great you really are. Your greatest pain holds your greatest gift. There's nothing enjoyable in abuse, assault, or any other kind of trauma. But trauma can be the spark that ignites your fire. By turning and facing the confusion, by feeling the feelings, you will grow. Each day I become more appreciative of your openness. I have the opportunities to speak out, to trust in others. People interested as you are here today. By speaking out and telling the story of my abuse, I cultivate a rich and enduring memory of personal conquest. I'm telling you today. I feel freer, more confident, and welcome in my life. I also want to acknowledge organizations and others who offered support for me to speak out. CCASA invited me to speak here today. CCASA has offered me the opportunity to also do more, to speak out to our Colorado legislators, inform them on considering domestic policy. And thanks to, personally, Karen Mohan from San Diego, and Melissa Brady, and also the Denver Children's Advocacy Center. DCAC serves children who have been sexually abused, neglected, or traumatized by witnessing violence. I get to serve as their ambassador, opening doors to volunteers and donors to DCAC. I want to give a special thanks to Jesse Mayer, who's been so wonderful and great leader to DCAC. Finally, I just want to accentuate how grateful I am that this kind of interest, resource, expertise, and compassion is available to our kids today. We need to find those kids, we need to support them. I didn't have that when I was a kid. I've devoted the rest of my life to ensuring that sexual abuse is discussed. Our kids are encouraged to speak about it. They're taught and educated in a different life than we were, one that is not one cast under rape and the privilege of rape. So I just have one last encouragement to all of us. We can make a difference by speaking out. It's time to talk about it. So together, let's protect our children. Thank you.
break the silence surrounding this crime and to help educate communities in Colorado and beyond. We're thrilled to have her here with us today. Please join me in welcoming Lori Crabb.
First, I'd like to thank CCASA for inviting me to speak on your behalf. Alexa, thank you for your mad dash and scrambling this event today. I am very proud. I am the current reigning Miss U.S. North America, as she mentioned, and during my journey, I have been asked to do many things. I have been asked to make many appearances and talk to many people, and people come up to me and ask me, what is the platform? And that word for me just, I don't like it. You know, it's not a platform. This is my life. And what it is talking about sexual abuse and sexual awareness. Another great opportunity that I had was through CCASA, the Survivor Task Force. I was asked to appear on a local radio or local television show that appears here in Denver market area on Sunday nights. And actually, Kimmy Chavez, sitting over there, was also on the same show. And we were invited to discuss the Penn State scandal. And it was very exciting and very honored to be on television. But it was more important to me to be able to help raise awareness about sexual abuse and about victims. And I'm here to say that I am no longer a victim. I have become victorious. In our society, the subject is not being talked about openly. Victims often harbor shame and guilt and secrecy, and they maintain their anonymity and pray for peace in their lives. I am here to say that there needs to be more open dialogue in order to educate and prevent such heinous crimes against our children and our community. Who will protect them if no one comes forward and lets them know that it is not their fault? Who will let them know that they can speak out and they don't have to keep the secret with them anymore? I find that being a victim of sexual abuse by my own father, I was abused since I was 4 to about 17 when I was able to leave the house. That was all I've ever known. But I find that to be a blessing and a curse. I will never know what it's like to have a happy childhood or how to lead a normal life. The abuse will stay with me as long as I live. It has changed me, and I don't know what I could have been. Some of the greatest symptoms of the abuse that I suffered is anxiety, panic attacks, and insomnia. When I'm stressed out, I can't sleep. When I have to go to court, I can't sleep. Sleep right now is more precious to me than gold. When I get it, it's great. But the blessing comes now in the fact that through my recovery, I have found my own voice, and now I'm trying to use it to speak out and stand up for those who can't speak for themselves. It took me many years to figure out how to move forward. I find that being open and talking about my abuse is therapeutic. I also find that there is strength in numbers. So I'm very glad to be here with all of you today. I have been very humbled and grateful that through my willingness to talk about this taboo topics, other victims have come forward. Some of them I know, and some of them I don't. They have come to me and said, this has happened to me too. And wow, you know, how much courage did that take to be able to make that statement? Because it's just the fact that they finally told somebody, you know, it's time to talk about it. And that somebody was me. And there was a huge weight that was lifted off of that person's shoulders just because they made that statement. It's not a powerful secret anymore to them. It's not a powerful secret anymore to me. And with that, I can sleep at night. And now, because I have a voice, I speak for those who don't. So, if I can just help one person by coming forward, and I now know that I have, it's so true that coming forward is just so fulfilling. If I can help that person, I know that I'm continuing to fight this good fight because it gives me the strength, because I know that there's strength in numbers. And now I've helped, and with that knowledge, I can sleep. So now
speaking on behalf of that group, and thank you all who are here for your work and your effort with CCASA on behalf of all survivors in Colorado. I would like to welcome back, before we close, Dominique to perform Even the Moon Has Bones.
Thank you. So this is fairly new in my own process, the writing process, and there's a lot of things obviously that you can reach toward, right? Or reach to when you're grappling with your story. Poetry is just what I reach to and smile at. So that's my own specific journey though. But this particular piece really deals with the grappling that I had and have. You know, it's the moment when you meet the person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life. And you have all this stuff that you carry with you. And you don't want it to interrupt what can be really beautiful. And you don't want it to insert itself in a way where it conspires against what you can have with this individual. So they gotta know. But the telling is often really difficult. And for me, personally, because my husband is so large, like he's just sort of he's this skyscraper of a man. He's brilliant, you know, and wonderful, and it was very jarring for me, you know, the realization that I was going to unpack all of this stuff, you know, for him. And in doing that, every time I would kind of inch toward it, and he wouldn't budge, I was the one that was trying to like sabotage the relationship, you know. Very frightening stuff for me. So this was written to sort of deal with that reality. Here is how it happens. How vulnerability offers its slippery neck when you are a declaration of independence and a war cry away from anything soft or lasting forever. Here is what he does. He does not slink or slip into the room some midnight ghost. No, he marches, brave trumpeter with scars wide and flat on his belly. And he knows that when you cuss at him, it's the only sonnet your mouth can host. And he admires the things you cannot say. And he is able to quiet the malaria-ridden memories that make you a liar and a thief. And he mentions you to a God who is listening. And this man will never leave you, no matter how much you insist on the inevitability of an exit. And these things are important. They are so very important because you have been impermanent in your suffering for so long, and so long has been 1,000 low rumbling offenses that have turned your mouth into a cauldron of slow-burning secrets, and you've dressed yourself in a hopelessness you can be proud of, the kind you think is noble and worthy of a hard, unyielding chick like you. And he loves you. He loves you until you can do no more than make yourself a collection plate. And every morning in his arms is Sunday, and God is listening. And you talk to God now more than you ever did before. Even when your best friend's mama was pulped in front of you, and you knelt in the bathroom scrubbing out her wounds in silence because her daughters did not need to know that their father was also a rapist, and how your tears swallowed the world. It is Sunday morning, every morning now, and God is listening, and you talk to God more now than you did when the man who was like an uncle forgot himself, stuck 3 calloused fingers into your underwear and did not withdraw them until you knew you'd never be whole again, or the 3 years, 9 months, and 17 days of sunlessness in your stepfather's home, who turned playgrounds into gravesides, who burglarized your tiny room over and over and over and over and over again until you grew barbed wire around your kneecaps, until you prayed your kneecaps into bleeding from the constellation of SOS signals that you flung out against too many midnights. Yes, this man loves you, and he knows these things, and his love He is listening, and these things are important. They are so very important because you've been dying an unknowable death since before you knew what to make of your life. And the mental nausea of throwing question marks around your self-worth leaves your spirit flabby. The mercuric March air gets in between fingers, laps around your ankles, makes you want to write or run or watch the trickle of commitment grow itself into a cathedral of forever, and you don't even know what that means, but God is listening, and you are learning how to be a flower, and botany has never been so frightening. But you are done with being tragic. You're done with being tragic. So you love him too. You love him for always. You hold that love in your hands. Examine its impossible geometry and tell God that you will try to be pink and new, not allow your fingers to be death rigid, though you have been Atlantic, weather-whipped and spastic, a railroad of forgotten sins and bones, but you are ready to give up your dead and let go your limbs toward dancing. Swing your hips out in wide arcs of hallelujah. And this man will be there waiting for you, walking with you, dancing your blue note melody, beating the prayer you were yourself too scared to utter. Thank you for having me.
And to truly beginning to talk about it. It really is time. Thank you.